Hello and welcome back to another edition of Canal Sidings Model Railway channel, and again we're looking at North Grove. Since the last time I posted, which was about 2.5 weeks ago now, I've had my boiler replaced and my cylinder and a radiator, and I've had the system power flushed, and I've had to take carpets up, and I've had to rebuild the airing cupboard, but I'm happy to say that the system's in and working, and our house is almost back together. Just a few more little jobs to do, but I thought rather than do any of those for now, I'm going to make another video, because I have been doing a little bit of work here and there on the layout. And what you're looking at now is a view into the single road repair shed. The track that goes into it actually stops almost at the point where the camera, where the bottom of the video picture, or the bottom of the picture I should say. And if I just flick a switch, you can see that the inspection pit is installed. The white surface is the concrete apron that's going all around the shed and inside the shed, and that comes up to rail level. One of the local Biggles brigade is just flying across doing acrobatics, so you hear a strange noise in the background. Anyway, I've managed to, as I say, install the inspection pit and build the concrete apron, at least the part under the shed anyway. So what I'll do is I'll move the camera to a more favourable position, and we'll show you how it all went together. Back in a sec. Okay, here I am back, and you're now looking at the side of the shed sitting on its concrete base, and next to it you can just about see in the picture here is where the oil storage tanks are going to go. So I'll show you how I got to this stage. And just take the shed off, which I've done nothing new to. That's just as it was the last half a dozen times you've seen it, I should think. And this is now a complete assembly which I can lift out. And the wires come out as well. So what we have, I'm just going to try and do this, just zoom it out a little. There we go. Okay, so you can now see what has been the subject of a video before. We have all of the LEDs and the resistors on these strip boards, one each side for all the LEDs. There's a couple of ballast LEDs at the end there which are mentioned in other videos. And that is now glued to the concrete hard standing. The reason I had to glue it to the concrete hard standing is because the width of these is the same width as the width of the actual inspection pit from Pico. What I mean is, if I get an inspection pit from Pico, okay, I couldn't find an inspection pit from Pico, but what we have here is a piece of the inspection pit. And what I mean is that let's just hold this like this, my two PCBs come out at almost the same width as that. When you look at the fact that there are two resistors, one there and one there, they are pretty much the same width as that. So I decided that I couldn't do what you would normally think of doing, which would be to cut a slot in the baseboard and cut it such that it does that, so that you slide the inspection pit in and then you can fix it to the baseboard here, if this is a piece of baseboard. What I had to do is cut it so that it drops all the way through, all the way along, it drops all the way through. So what I had to do was fix the inspection pit to the concrete apron, and the way I've done that is in 3 pieces. First of all, this black piece, which is 2mm thick, or 80 thou, is approximately the same height as the inspection pit, the edge here of the inspection pit, and that effectively is glued to the edge of it. On top of that, there is another piece of plastic card all over, which is 40 thou thick, 1mm, and that actually sits on top here. So I've got a glue surface here and a glue surface here, which gives me good strength, and that is how I've fitted the concrete apron to the inspection pit. Then finally, on top of that, those two, there is one more layer, because I can't get this layer, the 4mm layer, the 40 thou layer, I can't get that to go right up to the rail because the rail fixings get in the way. So what I did was I put another 20 thou on the top, and that gives me just a little bit of a step up to the rail. Hardly noticeable, but good enough to make it look as if the rail and the concrete are pretty much level, and easy to clean the rail with a track rubber when it's needed. Little piece of track at that end, which is also fixed in, little piece of track at that end, which is also fixed in, and the whole thing, wires coming out here to go down, goes down in there and sits, when you find the place where it belongs, in there, it drops down into there, you push it against that track like that, and it's now in exactly the right position. This track here will join onto the track that's down there that comes off of the other outlet from the 3-way point, which is not connected to anything at the moment. Take it out again. The way I cut this out was I simply marked the cork all the way around, and then I cut through the cork with a knife, straight lines, and just chipped it off because it was glued to the baseboard. Chipped it off, leaving me baseboard underneath. What I then did was used a pad saw. I think that's the old name for them. Whether they're still called that, I don't know. Whether you can still buy them, it's this. Basically, if you've never seen one before, it's a handle, which I'll just get a pair of pliers to undo that, because it's very tight. Okay, I'll just undo that. Like that. Okay, so it's a handle. It's a pad handle or whatever you like, and you can fit anything into it. I've got a piece of hacksaw blade, which I used to cut this out. You simply tighten it up and you saw with it. Don't know if they're still available. I've had this one. Well, this used to be my father's. He probably had it for 20 years before I got it, and I've probably had it for 60 years, so it could well be 80 years old or more, because it may not have been new when he got it, but it's just so useful when you've got something like that to do. And what I did was, in the end here and in the end here, I drilled a 25mm hole with a spade bit, which allowed me to get the pad saw blade in and start cutting along the edge of the cork, and I did that all the way along. I did have to cut another hole here because, as you can see, just there is a baseboard support. It actually goes from front to back and actually supports the baseboard, and I didn't want to cut that away. I did have to cut some of it out in order to allow my PCBs, in order to allow my strip board to go down low enough. The baseboard is just a little bit above the height of this, sorry, the baseboard strengthener is just a little bit above the height of the bottom, so I could get that in, but as soon as I put one that had these strip boards on, I had to open it out a bit further, and I simply did that by using a burr. You can call it a dental burr if you like. I've got a box of them here. Come on. Trying to put everything away. This is a box of dental burrs made by a company called Rolson. And as you can see, there are all sorts of shapes and sizes. The one I used is missing from there. It's actually in my rotary drill, which is sitting over here. And you can see in my mini rotating machine there is a dental burr which has actually got square ends, and I actually cut with those ends. Got this turning high speed and just cut the wood as I needed to get enough clearance to for the strip board to disappear down into, just looked into a lamp, for the strip board to disappear down low enough to let the concrete sit flat like this. Goes in there like that, push it up against there, and there it is. The next thing I've got to do, there is more concrete to build here, because as I've mentioned before, I'm going to have a fueling point here, and I want a concrete apron around that. I want a concrete apron to continue between these tracks and probably in part of that track, so it's easy to walk around here when fueling a locomotive, etc. It won't go any further than that at this end, but I've got to do exactly the same when I do the two inspection pits at the other end, although completely different shapes, and there will be a refueling point there as well, so I've got to learn how to do it, so I should do it this end first. The other thing that I'm racking my brains on at the moment is the shed sits where I've got these marks, which you may or may not be able to see, they're pencil marks. What I want to be able to do is remove the shed very easily for transportation, etc., because these plastic buildings are not super light and I want to be able to remove it easily. And what I need it to do is drop back in the right place every time, and to make contact with its 12-volt circuit for the building lights, because there will be lights inside the building and there may well be some lights on the outside of the building. There's almost certainly going to be one on the end here, showing the area around here, and there may need to be one somewhere along here, maybe one by the door for instance. It depends how the yard lights work and how much they're obscured by locos being in the way and things like that, so they're things to find out later. But what I want to be able to do is put the building back and immediately it makes contact. So I'm thinking about how I'm going to do that. Not easy to have a plug and socket, because I should probably be on top of Canal Sidings, that the layout will be on top of Canal Sidings when I put it back together, and I can't tip it up when it's up there. There just isn't room behind it to tip it, so it's got to be something automatic. So there's a bit of a challenge for me there to sort out, but I'll come up with something. Other than that, I've got to come up with a way of painting the concrete, which I don't think is going to be too difficult. And I also need to get on with laying some more track. But before I can do that, I need to build the other 2 inspection pits. That's the only one I've built so far out of the 3, and I wanted to ensure that everything worked on it before I went and built any more, so that I didn't make the same mistakes, if there were any, again. It does all seem to work. As you saw, it lights up. It's reasonable brightness. It's not dazzling in the dark. So I'm happy with that, and I'm going to crack on whenever I can, other things in the house willing, to finish this end off, make sure I've got all the concrete fitted in the right place, come up with the method of getting the lighting in the building, and then I'm going to lay the rest of the track, which comes from here, here and a bit further down there. Yeah, sorry, from here and from here and from further down that way that you can't see, and that will take me to the other building. So that's about it for this video. I'll wind it up and I'll say thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll be back in not too much time, not too long, with another update. So I'll see you again. Bye.